Have you been struggling with a body weight or self-image problem? Do you have pain in your body? Are you living with frequent colds or the flu? Or even worse, a diagnosed incurable disease? How would you like to hear that none of these issues are real? How would you like to hear that all of these problems are illusions, figments of your imagination, created by incorrect information and limited beliefs? In fact, it's my life passion and purpose to inform you that you don't have to live a life in lack or limitation any longer. I am here to say the poverty mindset can become a thing of your past. You can step into your abundance. You don't have to be controlled by fear or anxiety. You can fix or heal your relationships. You can raise up your energy. You can learn to love yourself. You can step back into the very best version of you. You can heal your life. It's totally up to you. It's your choice. It's your decision. You are the power that can do this. You are the creator of your life. Each and every single one of us has this power. We all have access to the infinite divine root energy that is available to each and every one of us. We can command and direct this power out into our lives. We all need to get the truth. We all need new information. We all need to overcome the brainwashing. Every one of us needs to stop the incorrect thoughts. We all must rise above the wrong, limited beliefs that we have accepted and allowed to form our current reality. The truth is, you have the power. You can lose the weight and keep it off for the rest of your life. The truth is that there is no pain or disease that is permanent. There is no circumstance that you are stuck in. You can overcome any situation that you wish to in your life. You can do it now. You can begin today. You do not need any pills. You don't need any potions. You don't need to buy any powders or any medications. You have everything that you need to change your life. Welcome to my weekly YouTube broadcast show about weight loss, about healing, and about improving performance in any aspect of your life. I'm your host, John DePass, the Melon Man. Jillian,
Hello, John.
how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. How art thou?
I am well. Good to be connected with you again.
So this time I guess we're going to try it by phone, eh?
Yes.
Okay, I actually don't mind that. That kind of warms my heart because the connection on the phone is really clear.
Good. Good. Yeah, I'm sorry we're not able to do a video interview, but just Wi-Fi. The gods of Wi-Fi are not on our side.
It's so hit and miss, though. You know, this is the thing is I've done Zoom meetings before,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's the time of day or the area that I'm in. But I mean, it's all good. If we can manage it other ways.
Great.
Mhm.
So let's just talk a little bit. I know you've just got so much background and experience working with customers with raw natural healing, detoxification, holistic nutrition. I want to kind of share you with my network. I want to open my customers, open my contacts, open my clients up to perhaps
employing you, hiring you, interacting with you. And so I want to put a spotlight on you a little bit so people know about you in my area and my network. And I want to, talk about what you do. And, can you just first of all just sketch out for me your top 5 jobs and background, tell me about you.
Sure. So, I mean, my love and my heart is really with the herbal medicine, because I had so much healing take place through herbs, and this was on the tail end of doing a raw food vegan diet and a lot of cleansing protocols. And I was able to heal myself from a final hurdle that I dealt with my whole life, which was something known as electromagnetic sensitivity. So this is for those that have had sensitivities going into places like Toronto, or even being around fluorescent lights and computers and Wi-Fi networks. So when I had finally kind of put the nail in the cross, if you will, on my final health issues, it was because of a simple herb known as fotai. And this herb made a world of a difference. Overnight, I went from having debilitating cramping and headaches that would just last for 4 hours and having to nap these off, to having a single teaspoon of an herb that if I took it even just twice a month, my body was not experiencing any of the effects of radiation toxicity. So herbs has had a really big part of my heart. I went to school in California to study herbal medicine under the tutelage of these herbalists that have been promoting Ayurvedic as well as Chinese and Western herbology. And so that's been a really big part of my practice, especially the last 3 years. I've loved introducing people to, adaptogenic herbs, which help the body cope with stress, as well as nootropic herbs, so just enhancing the mental clarity and having the ability to recall information so much clearer. And in this day and age, I really observe that we don't do a lot of the practices that we used to when we were, living in Egypt, per se, or traveling the mountains of Tibet and living these lifestyles where we really were all about how do we become the most powerful human being that I possibly can and be very grounded in it. And so my heart and soul has been with really promoting even the liver cleansing from the Hulda Clark. Have you heard of Hulda Clark and Andreas Moritz, for instance?
No.
And so the liver gallbladder cleanse that gets rid of the non-calcified stones that sit in our bile duct. And what these stones do is it obstructs the natural flow of bile. And bile is extremely important. We don't talk a lot about bile like we do talk about fiber. Most people when we speak about optimal bowel health or optimal digestion, we're always talking about probiotics and fiber, which is great, and that's so essential to health. But I've noticed incredible healing benefits for chronic skin disorders as well as chronic hormonal issues through directly taking care of the liver and doing it in a way that doesn't have to do with an over-the-counter box kit of herbs, doesn't have to do with a strictly vegetarian diet, but has to do with a combination of a vegetarian, if not vegan diet, and then going in with Epsom salts and olive oil to be able to actually expel these stones. So this is something where even just talking about it, I feel like it would require some visuals to just actually show, but I was able to do these cleanses, and I've had moles and skin tags that were on my body my whole life that fell off, within a week after doing that cleanse. I've had clients that had hundreds of red cherry angiomas and balding reverse after doing 4 of these cleanses. And so we used to do heavy-duty liver cleansing twice a year when we were, living in Egypt. We used to do these cleanses even 4 times a year and incorporate parasitic cleansing, but we don't have these same rituals. And so what I'm really passionate about is incorporating rituals back into our daily life and then giving our bodies these adaptogenic herbs that we've been taking for thousands of years so that we have the ability to withstand all of the different stress factors, mental stress factors, chemical stress factors, biochemical stress factors, radioactive stress factors, right? So that's a really big part of my passion. And I think I also shared with you just even the reminder of what mushrooms used to bring to our lives. You know, magic mushrooms have been a really big part of our history, in the Druidic history, and how we were able to cultivate a connection with one another and be able to reset our brainwave patterns, which mushrooms, they put us more into a flow state. And this has been shown on different technology systems, proving that even people that partake in mushrooms, that they have complete revitalization of depression and anxiety states. And it's such a simple therapy that we are not talking about, or we're not accessing anymore, because it's been put under this category of drugs and danger that I think is kind of sad, given that almost every single one of our societies, you know, the Aztec Mexicans and the Irish people and the Greeks, we always had mushrooms that we would partake in at least once in our lifetime, if not a few times a year, as kind of like a cleansing of our soul experience.
So plant medicine is something that you actually work with customers, or?
Tons, yeah. I carry over 80 different herbs in my apothecary. I carry a lot of herbs. I carry them in powder form and in the raw root forms, flower forms. I make different tinctures, so liquid formulas, as well as capsules. And so every time that I have a client see me, for instance, for iridology, oftentimes I am giving them these herbal protocols, because I find that for my clients, like, I love working with the diet, but I also notice there's a lot of people resilient to working with diet, and that's where herbs, I feel, have such a huge impact. And just even to know that when people buy supplements, most of the time, those supplements that they're purchasing, they're only taking 1,000 milligrams. You know, they're taking a maintenance dose. The problem with natural health products is Health Canada's forcing these companies to prove that these products are effective by making sure that every product has a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, at least 2 of them, for every health claim made. But then by the time the product's put out on the market, the same governing bodies are pressuring these companies to reduce the suggested dose. And that's a problem, because most of the time when people are turning to natural health products, they're not looking for maintenance, they're looking for therapeutic effects. And so what I've done in the last 3 years is I've really started to give people more of an accurate portrayal of how much herbs are needed to effectively get over the problems, and then they're seeing the differences within a week, within a few days, you know, within a month, a lot sooner than they would if they're just taking, you know, 1-2 capsules of maca and it's 1,000 milligrams, whereas I'm giving them a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, which would be otherwise, you know, 12 to 24 capsules worth of a product, right?
So much higher dosages.
Much higher dosages, especially when you're talking about therapeutic, which is a conversation that nobody has in the natural health field. We often don't, we veer away from that conversation, and these companies that are being put on the shelf, it's like they have the evidence, absolutely, to support it's effective, and no doubt people are still getting results from some of these items, but I'm just not seeing the clarity around proper dosing.
Right. So with basically you're saying with natural herbal healing and natural herbal supplementation, you do require higher dosing than you probably do when you're, say, you know, using obviously an unnatural source medication, or.
Precisely.
So yeah, natural products just require higher doses than do unnatural things.
Yep, and you know, even when it comes to things like teas could be made, you know, so much more effectively if they were steeped overnight. Some herbs can be steeped overnight, and that really extracts the maximum benefits, and it turns it from a tea or an infusion into something known as a decoction, which has usually 4 times more potency. So take, for instance, you know, if somebody was trying to eliminate gallstones, you know, they could take Chancropiedra and burdock and yellow dock, and they would steep those overnight. If you start drinking that, you know, every day for a couple of weeks, your bowels are going to start moving 2, 3, 4 times a day, you know, which is way more significant than the average person moves their bowels.
Okay, so I mean, that's a really big one. Constipation is a huge problem. So can we tease that out a little bit? Can you talk to me about what herbs you said are great for constipation?
This is the thing, is there's actually so much to it. So going back to what I was saying earlier about liver cleansing and bile health, right? Liver and gallbladder health in regards to bile. Bile is the original laxative for digesting fats and proteins, right? So
Bile is actually a laxative for fats and proteins.
yeah, it's a laxative in the way that it helps to fully digest the fats and proteins so that the bowels are moving effectively. So bile is what fiber is to carbohydrates. Bile is to fat and protein what fiber is to carbohydrates.
Okay.
Right. So picture when people are talking about optimal bowel health and constipation, the first thing that we go to usually is, well, we need more fiber. That's simply not true. That's simply not true for everybody. We can have these soluble and insoluble fibers, and it's going to help move carbohydrates along, but that doesn't help to move fats and proteins out of the body the same way that if you had healthy bile production and bile output, that would make more of a world of a difference. So when it comes to optimal constipation, I see it as there's a few different tiers. There's making sure that you have enough fibers, soluble and insoluble fiber coming from carbohydrates and berries. So getting at least 45 grams plus fiber a day, if not way more, 60 grams plus. And then there's also water intake. Water intake is really huge because 98% of bile, the substance that breaks down all fats and proteins in the body, 98% of bile is water. So if we're even just a little bit dehydrated, a person could be generating constipation, generating gallstones, just by virtue of they don't have what it takes to break down these fats. And then when people go to more of like a vegetarian or plant-based diet, then they're noticing their bowel health's improving so much, but it can really just be because they're not getting enough water. They're not getting the salts necessary to create the bile to digest any of the chicken wings or, hamburgers that they've been eating.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, are you do you propose continuing with chicken wings and?
No, I mean, in this conversation, ideally, I would love to stay focused on big picture when it comes to herbal medicine as well as concepts. But just to get it in people's heads, even whether it's chicken wings or an avocado still requires bile production, right?
Yeah.
So I've noticed I've had times where I noticed that I was getting constipated when I was, completely raw, and it was just because the cashews and the seeds, and I was overdoing it, and I wasn't taking in enough bitter tasting foods to get the bowels moving, because bitter stimulates peristalsis, right? The wave-like contractions in the bowels.
So bitter foods.
Bitter foods are huge.
Right,
huge.
Bitter foods, and I think you also said there were some specific herbs too that were great for it. Did you say burdock?
Burdock root.
Burdock root. What about ginger?
Ginger is excellent for the stomach. I don't notice it to be as effective for constipation unless the person's constitution is a little bit more dry and wet and damp. So think of people that have a lot of mucus in their bodies. Mm-hmm. Ginger can be excellent because the fire element, it will just help to move things along. But if you were to take somebody who had a really dry constitution, you give them ginger, that could give them diarrhea, right?
Okay.
So when it comes to, and that's the thing, when it comes to different herbs, there's so many different herbs for constipation. There's the really powerful laxatives like senna leaf, right? Or cascara.
Senna leaf, yes.
Not senna leaf, senna with an S. But even something like fennel seeds. That's more of a mild constipation reliever.
Yes.
Right? Just chewing the seeds or putting it into your food or taking it as a powder. And then you have flax seeds, of course, which has more of the mucilaginous effect. So the people, when it comes to the constipation, it's like, well, what type of constipation? Because right now we have a lot of the population, I'd say 30% of the population has some sort of IBS-related symptoms, you know, or catch-all. So IBS being general, you know, indigestion issues.
So, I mean, you're saying that epidemic, 33% of the population having some digestive issues of some kind.
At least, yeah.
More than that, even 40%.
Oh, yeah.
40 to 50% of the population are having digestive distress.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what do you attribute that to mostly?
What do I attribute the digestive distress to?
Yeah.
Some of it is we're not pooping right. Like when we're sitting on a toilet, we're not actually squatting down, which allows for the perfect emptying of the colon.
So like actually just position on the toilet.
Structure, yeah, it's a structural concern. So we always used to squat, and that allows for perfect emptying. But when we're sitting flat, that actually allows for a lot of buildup in the sigmoid colon. And most people, when you think about their fat loss, everybody has a hard time losing it around the middle, around the lower belly, right below the belly button. I don't think that's for any reason other than the fact that we're not squatting properly structurally. That's a big factor. If we were to squat, then we would be allowing for perfect emptying directly out of the sigmoid colon. But instead, poop can get a bit more stuck.
So when it gets stuck there, then we're leaching that poisonous, hazardous waste, fecal matter fluid, like into the body, and that's why we're storing body fat.
Well, it appears as body fat when it could really just be like buildup of poop sitting directly in the sigmoid colon.
So it's actually maybe swelling,
abdominal
distension of the intestines. It looks like body fat. It's actually tightness. It's actually fecal waste that's there. I really believe that the whole fat thing is really just toxicity, stored toxicity. So I would lend to believe that would even be, you know, toxic waste that's being stored as body fat in that region.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's not a far cry. And that's also how I see, you know, fat buildup is it's toxins.
Yeah, stored toxins, right?
It's way less of this whole caloric intake, caloric out. No, it's the quality of your calories. And, you know, like going back to just your original question, which was, you know, what do I think are the main factors that are leading to
constipation, congestion?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is also just dehydration. Most people, they walk around taking a lot of stimulants. You know, they're drinking coffee, which dehydrates the body.
Dehydration, dehydration. From coffee, from stimulants, right? I really like that.
Oh yeah, from too much
coffee, green tea, coffee, cheese.
Cheese is very mucus forming.
Yes.
You know.
So dairy
products. I think a lot of the meats that are out there is just completely crap quality.
All right.
And does the body no good. Especially these fried foods. These just congest the liver and the gallbladder.
Fried foods, get them out.
And put us in a state of inflammation in general, and then our body's having to like dip into its mineral storage, right? And minerals are so key for optimal digestion, right? We have the 4 key electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, that are supposed to be retained in the bowel, and they actually help with the emptying. But when we're dehydrating our bodies, right, and then we're having all of these, you know, poor quality fats, that really just sets the body way back, and then it causes our body to have to go into almost starvation mode and take from our body whatever minerals we possibly had and use them to try to get things out. And then people get frustrated because their skin has acne and their joints hurt, and then they start taking all these suppressing drugs, right, that just deepens the issues. And it doesn't solve anything. So we're putting all these
medications and stuff to try to manage other symptoms that are now building up.
Yeah, like even just take all these antacids that people take.
Right, antacids.
You know, like we're supposed to have a very acidic environment in the stomach on purpose. You know, pH at 2.3. That's very acidic. Think of like a fire burning, right? And then what do people do? They pour milk. They drink that. Well, that just makes it so the pH is a lot less. Or they take the antacids, which are usually calcium-based. So then you're buffering the acid, and then it empties the stomach prematurely, and your food's not even fully digested in the stomach. It moves on to the small intestine, and then it just causes gas and bloating, and it makes it so that people are way more prone to autoimmune conditions.
So constipation, congestion, a huge issue. Would you agree? Huge issue. But
most people don't know it.
They don't know that they're congested or constipated?
Yeah, I'd say that, I know in my own health journey, I used to think it was normal, once a day. Later to find out, when I started eating the bitter tasting herbs and eating clean, it's like, okay, now I'm going to the washroom after every meal, 4 times a day, right? 3-4 times a day. And it was just like, okay, like, no, this is what it means to have good digestion. But most people, they don't see it that way. They don't honor their colon or the health that it has. I mean, here's the thing, John. Once upon a time, the average doctor, the first thing that they would do for any person that was sick, whether it was a fever or arthritis, the first thing they would do is they would give an enema treatment, right? So they get the enema. Yeah, they get the enema treatment, and then that was the first line of service, right? Yeah. And there was a lot of herbs that were given. The Materia Medica from the 1800s looks a lot different than it does today. There were a lot of European practitioners that practiced herbal medicine, and they worked heavy duty with these herbs, but it's like nowadays that's just been pushed way out the wayside. We don't honor the colon. We don't understand its function. We just have a lot of jokes around, like, bathroom talk.
Yeah, right. It's just dirty. It's just stinky. Let's not talk about it. We don't want to acknowledge it. The enema's kind of a gross, silly, funny thing, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. And meanwhile, the enema is just such a valuable healing tool that should be a part of a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yes. I see this as a major hurdle for the general population to get over, I think. If you want to talk about natural healing and raw food healing and, well, actually, I would say true healing, the only true healing, you've got to get back to the natural healing protocols and methods and systems that the original healers used. And enema being one of them. What about fasting?
Yeah, fasting is something that I don't see a ton of people have experience with. I've experienced mostly the fasting in regards to the liver gallbladder flush, because that requires, I've done actually several different types. I've never done a water fast for more than a day and a half. I don't have a ton of experience with water fasting besides that in particular. But there's a lot of different types of fasts, right? There's fruit fasting, and there's fasting with even just, I've known of people that are just taking herbs or doing the Kachari fast, which is more of the Ayurvedic cleanse with mung beans and spices, and taken still 3 times a day. So the person's still eating food, but it's known to be like a whole body fast of sorts. So in regards to that, yeah, what's your thoughts?
Well, on fasting, I just encourage people to start at 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Stay empty 14, 15, 16 hours, and then eat your food in that 6, 7, 8 hour window. The smaller the eating window, the more time in emptiness, the more time, that you're introducing some fast time to your daily routine.
So, the intermittent fasting styles.
Intermittent fasting, right. I mean, yeah. It begins with intermittent fasting, and then it grows from there into extended, extended fasting, which I like to call unfooding, and I think that just happens naturally as you move in the direction of raw, natural foods.
And you know what? I've absolutely noticed that too, because over the last 8 years, it's incredible how much I've noticed. I don't eat a lot of food, but it doesn't mean that my body is, losing any of its vital size per se. At first, absolutely, but I find, when I have my smoothies in the morning and I'm putting my moringa and reishi and I put flaxseed oil and coconut oil and loaded up with blueberries. It's like this smoothie alone is lasting me like 6 hours, right? And I'm not hungry. And even though from the caloric intake standpoint, it's like, wait a second, is this actually that much? No, it's not a ton, but it lasts because my body's getting everything that it needs.
Yeah, well,
And
this is it. Is the whole idea around what the body needs is so off track. I mean, the understanding of metabolism, the recommendations for caloric requirements, it's way off track. Not even close to what is actually truthful.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I knew that even just when I looked at certain sports nutritionists' diet suggestions for their athletes, and they're having, let's say, someone that's practicing volleyball and suggesting to have, acidic orange juice in between their practice, and then load up with a couple cups of yogurt and then cereal and having these granola bars. It's just like, ew, like, what are you doing? It's not really food. But it was all spaced out based off of the caloric intake standpoint, right?
And I look at that some sort of formula to calculate your caloric need and requirement, and it doesn't balance out. It balances out to make people fat.
And acidic. Highly acidic diet.
And lethargic.
Totally. Yeah. And it's just like, that's where there's a huge dissonance when it comes to, even the dietitian pathway. Like I had the option and choice to go the dietitian pathway, and I chose not to because it was just not the education system that was really about true healing, right? It was based off of subsidized companies being, supported within these educational systems, right? It was about big corporations and the money. And a lot of the times, too, the nutrition education that's following anything later than about the 40s is a lot of bullcrap, too. It can be a lot of fake ideas based off of commercialization, right? Whereas when you go back to the nutritionists from the 1800s and the early 1900s, these were people that they didn't support pasteurization. The whole dairy board itself in the States was totally against it, right? And the nutritionist said, that's going to mess up the microbiome system, and this is going to be very dangerous for people. But nowadays, fast forward 80 years, you have dairy being supported in a pasteurized form. Now that's changing a little bit. Finally, the dairy board's gotten off of the Canada's Food Guide, but it's been long enough, and it's just like the original leaders in these industries, they're being taped up, right? Their ideas and their strategies are being squandered and silenced, right, in favor of big corporation.
So you're saying big corporate dollars, probably big pharmaceutical companies as well too, are driving dietitians and nutritionists mandate education and also directing, lobbying the government to manage the food recommendations to the public, and all of that is causing the public to be in this chronic constipation and congestion state, dehydrated, congested, and toxic.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing even just, if we're really going to look at what nutrition can do, I've seen nutrition and herbal medicine, change people's lives. I've seen it be able to restore nerve damage, clear like really hard to treat dysbiosis and IBS, even dementia. I've had a client that I've seen, and she wasn't willing to do any of the dietary strategies, but with the herbs alone, she was able to start speaking clearly again. She regained her creativity and her love of her hobbies. When she first came to me, it was like she wouldn't even be able to look me in the eye or say a straight word to me. It was her husband speaking 100% to me. And this is just like the power of food, right? But in the modern day system, it just seems like nutrition, especially the dietitian systems, they're not really promoting a lot of that healing. I know my mother, she'd seen a dietitian for her rheumatoid arthritis, and the dietitian was just handed her the food guide. She said, hey, just follow this and you'll clear it up. Well, that's just not accurate. And so, I helped my mom out. I got her off of corn and meats and certain sugars, and then all of a sudden the doctor is telling my mother that she has no markers for rheumatoid arthritis anymore, that it cleared up. But that's coming from the natural healing side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which takes a different approach.
Okay, I do want to talk about this. I want to tease this out a little bit more. Your recommendations, then. I mean, what's your title? Is it holistic nutritionist?
So yeah, I have a few titles. So I have a, holistic nutritionist or registered nutritionist.
Holistic nutritionist, registered nutritionist.
I'm recognized as both, as well as a clinical iridologist.
Clinical iridologist.
Herbalist.
Herbalist.
And registered orthomolecular health practitioner.
Registered orthomolecular
health practitioner.
Health practitioner. Okay, so we gotta tease some of this out here. First, can you just throw some light on holistic nutritionist versus nutritionist versus dietitian?
Absolutely. Okay, so typically a dietitian, they'll be focused on sports nutrition, in ensuring enough caloric intake. A lot of the times there's not the preventative health associations. Now, actually, you know what? Let me just get a pen and paper for a second here too, just to kind of put up my ideas about this. But yeah, what I've seen holistic nutritionists do is they're really working to generate the body's own self-healing mechanisms, the
holistic nutritionist?
The holistic nutritionist, yeah.
Yes.
They're working often from the premise that food is healing, right? Dietitians, I see them operating more from the premise that, food maintains, right? And there's not a therapeutic value to food besides what food can do for weight, right? Weight loss and weight gain.
Food is requirement to maintain the body.
Mm-hmm.
And the holistic nutritionist, you would say, is, nutrition heals the body.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that. So a little bit of a paradigm switch when you're stepping from the dietitian, which is the government supported,
mm-hmm.
To the holistic nutritionist, because does the work health benefits plan support the holistic nutritionist?
Yeah, so I do actually have clients that have coverage for my services, and that's because I'm part of the IONC board, or the International Organization for Nutrition Consultants. So yeah, like some of my titles, they're recognized by Manulife and Green Shield and Alliance and Sun Life, but not everybody's are. So most people will definitely have benefits for dietitians, but not everybody has benefits for holistic nutritionists.
I see. So the government supports the dietitians. Does it support the registered nutritionist?
Yes, it does. Some people's... No, does the government support registered nutritionists?
Yes.
Great question. It appears that, yeah, there is some movement there, just seeing that the insurance companies are now recognizing registered nutritionists, which is a form of holistic nutrition, as insurable. So that shows me that there has been some movement
to support that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But not like they're supporting the dietitians.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just it, is like one of the most major differences between a holistic nutritionist and a dietitian is that holistic nutritionists do not advise you on a food guide or pyramid.
I see. Okay. Now, you yourself have chosen the path of what?
Chosen the path of, in terms of titles, or,
say vegan nutrition, raw food nutrition, mixed nutrition, protein, keto, paleo.
Because I work with a lot of different clients, I've really chosen the path of mixed nutrition styles depending on where the person's at. So, for example, I had one client that, ketogenic diet, I helped her with that specifically just to be able to help her with her dementia, which it absolutely did, And then I've had other clients where I've done mostly raw food nutrition, and it really just depends on the case. So as far as titles that I give myself in regards to diet dogmas or diet, overviews, I don't give myself any of those.
Right. So is it that, attaching to, any one kind of limits you perhaps from managing people of other kinds? Because people are as attached to their nutrition as they are to their religion. Wouldn't you agree?
Oftentimes. And, the thing is, too, it's like I really love the herbal medicine. I'm really consider myself, an herbalist, right? So I love the plant medicines, right? I love the cleansing practices. And for me to put myself out there as a raw food nutritionist or ketogenic, it may help to draw in a certain crowd, but it's just not where I'm at,
Yeah.
And especially, too, I'd say part of the reason, too, is when I was studying, Chinese medicine, their practices around natural health, they have really different ideas. I mean, they're doing a lot of cooking of the foods, right? And they're boiling down roots and shoots, and they're having a different approach than raw food nutrition. So it's like I do see everybody is truly unique, and we all have generally the same biochemical requirements, but we can have them in different amounts. And so I like to keep myself open to trying different things with people.
I see. Okay. So, you know what, you also touched on something there, like, clients' limits, a client not willing to do the diet recommendations with you and just want to do the herbal formula. So, do you think that the client's mindset plays a major role in healing?
I think that people need to understand that their body can heal. And if people don't have that belief, then people are more likely to give up. And this is something that I let clients know often is it's like your health is a journey. It's not something that just happens. Like, people work towards their diseases every single day with their thought patterns and with their food, right? So in the same way that you're working towards your disease states, we need to work towards our health states, which means putting in the effort daily. So anybody that makes a conscious effort and they're consistent, they're going to see results in one way or another, right? That's pretty much given. But the mindset is huge, priming people to let them know that your body is meant to heal. And if you keep at it, then there will be results, I think is so huge.
Mindset is an important aspect of healing, and understanding and believing that natural raw healing is possible. So like actually having that thought in your mind is essential. Agreed?
Exactly.
Right. But most people are kind of brainwashed in this idea that, we need a doctor, we need medicine, we need medication. That if you've got cancer, you've kind of got to cut it out, or surgery. You're kind of committed to a lifetime on high blood pressure medication. These are not actually healing methods, though.
Yeah, and that doesn't send a good message to people that, the only way to take care of their diseases is to give pills or to have surgery. That doesn't give any acknowledgement to the body's inherent ability to heal itself. And a big thing with holistic medicine in particular is it really is looking at the root causes and not just covering up symptoms.
So it's addressing the true problems.
Yes.
This is the only real healing. Would you agree?
Is holistic healing?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the other way is not addressing really healing. It's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have these fasting practices, right? And these cleansing practices, and be working with plants from our environments. So it was completely different. We live in a different world today, and it's blessed because we've never had so much abundance as far as accessibility to herbs and spices and foods from all over the world. But that has come at a cost. So you even have like the health food, junk food lifestyle, right? So a person could be, maybe staying away from genetically modified foods and trying to eat organic, but it's like there's still just a lot of like packaged processed foods, right? And it's like, how much just raw food as is are people really taking in a day? Are they taking in any of it? Are they really getting any live enzymes? I think that plays a big role too.
So then, I mean, as much as you say that you're not really choosing a side, it sounds that you're saying that raw food is the way.
Raw food is a huge part of healing. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like you don't want to tell people that they have to do that because you understand that they are connected to their diets, and if you're trying to push something on them that they don't like, obviously you're going to lose the customer. But really, you understand that raw food, natural healing is the way. Would you agree?
I believe that it's a big part of the way. Yeah, major results when people do start to eat raw foods. And that's just it. It's like, it's not a case of pushing that 100% on people. Everybody that sees me, everyone's being told how much raw food I'm anticipating for them to start taking daily. But that being said, it's like, yeah, it's not a situation where I'm saying, okay, 100%. That's not realistic for most people. We need to be able to do things in increments.
Absolutely.
And there does need to be a level of believability, for people's lives and being able to access that. And that's where like my coaching comes in, to be able to introduce people to different restaurants and cafes that are different than what they're used to. Because when it comes to changing your whole lifestyle, that's one of the first things that comes up is food is a social thing. So who are you eating with? Right? Where do you typically go? If you're going to Montana's, you're not really going to be healing your body. But if you're going to Planted or Green Bar or, even Mulberry has some good stuff, it's like those types of places are going to help generate and continue your health journey in the most positive way possible, right?
So I think I heard you say in a roundabout way, transition is key.
Transition, yes.
People need a gentle kind of a nudge in a way that pushes them towards more raw food, but they can't be expected to go to 100% raw food overnight, because our food is our social interaction, it's our holidays, it's our family time, it's our number one engagement with one another. So, telling people now that they have to go to a complete 100% raw food healing paradigm is almost impossible, unless maybe someone's at death's door.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the motivation is that high that they have to make that huge a transition in their life.
Now, there are some people, too, that I've seen that raw food was disrupting, their digestion, and that they had to start cooking foods down. And, I think that part of the reason, too, is their body wasn't producing its own enzymes to even help break down those foods. But I know one nutritionist in the city, she has had IBS for most of her life, and she didn't really get rid of all of her symptoms till she started to incorporate more soups and stop eating so much cold raw food, right? And in Chinese medicine, they really bring up these associations strongly when it comes to raw food versus cooked food, this whole debate, where with some foods, yeah, it absolutely appears that it's better to cook that food because you get rid of certain anti-nutrients that could be disrupting the body. And maybe you're even going to enhance the nutrition of that food through cooking. Certain foods, they have that with iron and calcium, right? Allowing it to be more bioavailable.
Yeah, I'm totally not disagreeing with that at all. And especially some things that are very highly fibrous, that cooking those things are beneficial, especially at the beginning. And again, I think that comes down a lot to transition. Like when someone comes from a standard American diet to where they're eating, very highly processed foods, meats and dairies, and cooked foods and starches, and this is where they've been living for 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years. if they're switching now to a raw food diet that's got a whole bunch of fiber in it, there's just no way their body's going to be able to digest it or handle it.
Mm.
So there's got to be some transition time. So I mean, obviously they're going to have to cook some of this food, or cook it at the start, or lightly cook it at the start until their body adjusts. And then on top of it, if you do look at the great works of Dr. Ehret and Dr. Sebi and Dr. Morse, and what is suggested happens when we begin a raw food healing protocol is that the body starts to release toxins. So obviously, if you start moving into a raw food lifestyle and the body starts into a healing crisis by releasing toxins, then of course you're going to have irritable bowel situations, you're going to have diarrhea situations, you're going to have digestive disorders, you're going to have headaches, you're going to have mucus release, you're going to have cold temperatures, you're going to have mucus can manifest healing crises of all kinds when you're moving into a raw food program and healing begins. So, all sorts of signs and symptoms may indicate that, oh, I need to cook my food, and it seems like I'm getting a better result when I cook my food, because now when I cook it, I'm slowing down the healing crisis, and it appears as though the cooked food is better. But that doesn't really mean that the cooked food is better. That just means that I'm interrupting the healing that's going on.
Right, got it. Yep. And that's such a key aspect too, is you're touching on the healing crisis, which most of us aren't educated on.
Right.
And so,
this
like,
is the
I know
mindset. This is the understanding that we need to have, right?
And then and just like the law of healing. So Herring's law of cure, right, is everything comes in the reverse order that it appeared. So I know I've gone through about 8 healing crises. Most of them happened back in 2010 to 2013, right? I remember at one point as many as 2 healing crises within a week and a half time, right? Lasting about 2.5 days each time. But that's so key. And most people, they'll sometimes that happens where they'll start to take a detox and then they feel like they're getting worse. They've got the headaches or their pain or their bowels emptying, and then they're like, oh, I'm getting sick. It's like, no, your body's actually just expelling old waste matter, and it's just healthy. And the reason you're getting the eczema is because your body's purging, right? So I went through that myself. I've gone through that several times, and I'm definitely familiar with that law of cure. And it's such a blessing that our bodies actually have that ability, that you can reverse and back to diseases all the way to when you were a toddler.
But you have to go through a little bit of pain and discomfort to get there.
Exactly.
But I mean, you're going through pain and discomfort right now. You're trying to get healing. So it's painful to continue on the path you're on, and it's a little bit of painful in order to heal. But this is the way it goes. As we unfood, as we fast, more extended fasting, or we start using some herbal protocols, or we start moving to Ayurvedic medicine or Chinese medicine, or more raw food, or more vegan nutrition, or even moving from a standard American diet to even a keto style plan, or a reduced meat plan, or reduced processed food plan. Any of these steps forward can trigger some sort of healing crisis. They're forward steps. Whenever you take a forward step, you can trigger yourself into some healing.
And what's been your favorite detoxification program thus far? Well, that you've discovered?
For me, it's absolutely fasting and distilled water. Distilled and water and fasting.
And so when you say fasting too, do you mean like total water fasting?
Well, I say fasting, I mean emptiness. So, I mean, whether that's 14 or 16 hours, or you're going to 20 hours or 24 hours, or if you're going to 36 or 47, or, I fast 5 days a week now myself. Now, that could be dry fasting, or that could be distilled water fasting, or that could be dry fasting 16, 18, or 20 hours of the day, and then using distilled waters for 2, 4, or 6 hours of the day and staying dry the rest of the time. The most of the time that you stay empty, the more digestive rest that you create for the body, the more you divert energy from the creation of bile, from the creation of insulin, from the creation of enzymes, from the creation of digestion, from directing blood flow to the stomach, to allowing that blood flow now to move to other areas where healing can be done. That energy is now being directed to create freedom for energy and healing in other aspects of the body and life. That's just unfooding. That's digestive rest.
Incredible. And so even with your fasting, have you found that you've had to take any herbs or do any maybe breathing techniques or even just sit in stillness to be able to get through like the first few days of water fasting?
Well, I mean, I've been at it for a couple of years now, so for certain, I'm not suggesting anyone goes to a 5-day fast to start or anything like that. That this is something that I've adjusted myself to, that as you progressively subject yourself to extended fast times, the body returns to what is actually most natural and what's normal. And actually, I compare it to when I used to take, anabolic steroids. When I took anabolic steroids, my body stopped producing testosterone. And when you're feeding your body 3, 4, 5 times a day, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all of this stuff that you're supposed to have, then of course your body stops manifesting vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all the stuff that it's able to manifest. Wow. So for the first year and a half, yes, I did use a lot of herbal formulas and tinctures and stuff like that to help me get through. And I think that's all well and good at the beginning. And using, vegan lifestyles and raw food lifestyles and, shifting slowly, transitioning slowly into this lifestyle. But once you actually get accustomed to those extended fast times and your body returns to what is normal and natural, your body needs nothing. All things are provided for the body, by the body. If you just do the simple logical approach, we've evolved on this planet. We obviously have all of the abilities that a tree has to generate vitamin and mineral requirements from the light of the sun. And if
absolutely, sun eating. I'm so intrigued by this because I first came across this woman by the name of Jasmine Keen, and she's in Australia. But I'm just so thrilled by her programs. I've never gotten to try some of them, but she's one of these people that she really does go without food completely, right? And she will use the energy from the sun to get everything that she needs.
That's correct. That's the path that I'm on. That's the path that I'm on. That's cool. The direction I'm moving on. That's the work of Hilton Hotima. Dr. Arnold Ehret was the grassroots of this. Hilton Hotima, a major player in this movement in the 1950s and 60s with his education and his books. A Man's Higher Consciousness would be a book I would recommend, but he has lots of books that he's written. And basically what we're saying here is that if you think about it, we're beings of energy and vibration and frequency. We're beings of light. We're beings that have been created from fruits and vegetables and live raw foods, which are grown in the light of the sun. So we eat the light of the sun in the fruits and vegetables. We are the beings of light and love. And actually, when we connect to the true source energy within us, by unfooding, by removing the obstructions that we put into our body, like congestion and constipation, once it's all been removed and detoxified, we connect back to the true source energy that is within us. And if you think about it, we're cellular beings. And, at the molecular level, those cells are made up of atoms and molecules, molecules and atoms are made up of electrons and protons and neutrons. And electrons spin around the nucleus. We're a vibration. Those electrons are spinning around the nucleus, and those electrons don't ever tire. They don't ever get fatigue, and they don't ever eat.
Incredible. Love this. This is such a great conversation to have, because you know what, and you're taking, what I love about this conversation and is you're taking it away from just the biochemistry of what we need, and you're taking it into the physics, right?
This is physics and chemistry. Yes, we're getting away from just all of the incorrect metabolic information that's holding people trapped. This is why it's a mindset change to actually heal your body completely. You've got to get away from all of this bull crap about what your body needs. It's not about what your body needs. It's about the removal of the obstructions that allows us to come back to what we truly are. We are a spirit having a physical experience. See me here, just locked up here. I'm grounding. You know, this is my grounding cable. I keep myself in contact with the ground whenever I can, especially when I'm in front of electromagnetic devices like my computer here, electromagnetic sensitivity. You talked about herbal ways of dealing with that. I talk about grounding that energy into the earth. I talk about the sunlight and getting rid of it that way. I talk about breathing it out in our breath and carbon dioxide. I talk about detoxifying the body through the lungs, through the breath. So breath work, so exercise, so connecting to the energy that we truly are. You know, when the body dies, something leaves. What leaves the body, right? It's not really that the body died, it's that the body never lived. The body never lived. It was the spirit the whole time that was alive. You are a spirit. The spirit has left and moved to its next phase. The spirit doesn't eat. The spirit doesn't need to eat. It's been fooled into buying all of this stuff.
Yes.
A consumerist society.
Oh, and I laugh about that too, because I think about one of the experiments that I did 6 years ago was, no shampoo movement, based on, that our scalp produces all the oils that it already needs. We don't need to be washing our hair with shampoo, right? And these different chemicals. So I remember I went 4 months, no shampoo. It was a great experience, and then something changed. I remember getting into exercise, and I was weight training 4 days a week. And then, I was like, well, I'm just going to start using castor oil. So then from that point forward, I got back into shampoo. But we've been, led to believe that we're dirty or we need certain things in order to have health. And it's not the whole picture. It's not
we
true.
have a lot of toxicity because of the incorrect food choices that we've been making. And once the body's actually properly detoxified, there's no more odors or smells or toxicity that comes out of it. And if you really want to talk about how to clean the hair, cleanse the hair, detoxify the body and skin, we're really talking about fresh urine, aged urine. These are the best ways to actually cleanse and detoxify the body.
Yeah, the middle stream, is it? The middle stream of the urine?
It's the very best if you want to put that in your hair, if you want to see what happens to your hair, if you want to see what happens to your skin and your nails, if you start ingesting a little bit of that. This is the detoxifier. This is the natural. All things are provided for the body.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. So what about? Let's talk about fluoridated water.
Sure. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, what about it?
What do you think about it?
Let's get it out of our water, please.
Yes.
Make it stop.
Yeah.
No, this is a giant experiment we're under. The Russians were given fluoride, and it poisoned them, and it caused a lot of destruction. And this is just really to dumb us down as a population and make us more complacent. So we, there is fluoride that we need fluoride, not fluoride. And so this is something that we need, but it doesn't come from the source that we're being given it. We can get trace mineral amounts, but it's far below what's currently in our water system. So I definitely stay away from fluoridated water. But not everybody knows that that's something that should be taken seriously. You know, I think there's still a lot of people that believe that because we have, you know, a modern day system that filters out pollutants, that we need to do that. I'm actually a bit more concerned even about, in Hamilton in particular, the radiation, which you can't chemically treat radiation. You know, and so I like the spring water, especially because a lot of the times that's at least further away from radiation, but even then not completely. Because in Hamilton, like, we have all these hospitals, you have these cancer patients, they're being given these chemotherapy and radiation treatments, they're pissing in the water, it's going into our systems, like, we're taking that in. You know, I really see that there is a crisis that is taking place, it's a silent one, and it is that against radiation. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, with getting people to start to take in different types of foods and herbs to help to deal with the radiation issues.
And I really push the distilled water, and I tell people, try to educate them that they've got to stop drinking the fluoridated water and move to the distilled water. Getting away from, I tell people to get away from the spring water and to get away from the obviously the fluorinated, chlorinated, even the alkaline water, the mineralized water, because all of those minerals are inorganic minerals, and we just have no benefit in our body for those inorganic minerals. We've got to go with the organic minerals. So the way that we get our organic minerals is from our fruits and vegetables, and that's why I really push the raw food diet as much as possible. So they get your distilled water and your organic vitamins and minerals from your fruits and vegetables. The water is not for your minerals. The water is for the cleansing, and that's why the water needs to be distilled, because distilled water has a little bit of a negative charge. And that negative charge is what's essential to pick up the inorganic elements, which are positively charged, and whisk them out of the body. All inert elements, all dead elements inside of the body, all toxins, therefore, are positively charged. You know, it's life. We're energetic beings. We're life beings. We're movement beings. We're beings of electrical current and movement, and therefore we are beings of negative charge. That's current. That's movement. Negative charge moves. The positive charge is inert and dead. And if we keep putting mineralized water in, if we keep putting fluoridated water in, chemicals in, if we allow the parasites to live in the body, if we allow the yeast and the candida and the fermentation to happen inside of the body from eating meats, dead animal flesh, cooked foods, which is killing the food. So again, we're leaving fermentation inside of the body, all positively charged elements. We need to detoxify the body with a negative charge. That's distilled water. It has to be distilled water. And I tell people it has to be distilled water. And lots of people are of the understanding that fluoridated water is still good and that they need to have fluoridated water, that it's good for the teeth. People are of that understanding. Well, I clarify that understanding for them. I think that's my job, to clarify to them that they must stop drinking the tap water.
Yep. And that just goes into as well, speaking on the negative and positive ions of having people not wear rubber soles.
That's the grounding. That's the grounding, right?
Yeah.
That's being connected to the earth. That's getting out barefoot. That's wearing the leather sandals in the summertime. That's getting barefoot on the ground. That's looking up at the sun. It's connecting to looking into the sun, right? That's eating the live fruits and vegetables that are high vibration foods, high electric current foods, and have the distilled waters in them and have the right current in them. That's the breathing of oxygen, which has fill of the negative ions. That's the antioxidants that we take in our fruits and vegetables and the live foods. Rather than from fruits and from vitamins and minerals, Let's get them from live foods. That's how our body's supposed to absorb antioxidants from fruits and vegetables. That's where we heal our body, from fruits and vegetables and emptiness.
Love it. Love it. This is your favorite topic. I love it.
Well, definitely, natural healing is my topic. I've learned that. I come from a science background, so I went through all the nutrition and the calories, and I did 30 years of bodybuilding and personal training and helping people with protein requirements and vitamin requirements and mineral requirements and all that nutrition and dietitian stuff and the keto plan and the paleo plan and living that life myself. And I had a body filled with pain, and I realized that, hey, that's not how you heal your body. So I went that far, and I had that extreme, and I had that pain, and I knew right away, as soon as I started fasting, I felt it all disappear very quickly. Very, very quickly, my body started to heal, and so I knew I was on the right path. So I followed the path for a couple of years now, and now I don't eat 5 days of the week. I eat only, 2 days of the week, 2.5 days of the week, and 1 day is just smoothies and juices. 1 day is raw food. I only eat cooked food one day a week, cooked and processed foods.
Oh, I have a question for you then.
Yes.
Okay, so have you heard of the book Power versus Force? Power versus Force? No, I'm not. But please tell me. Do you know who the author is? Yeah. So Power versus Force. This book was originally written just to be able to by David Hawkins. Sorry. So he has this whole scale of consciousness within this book. And he's talking about, the vibration of each individual human being and how there's a correlating vibrational resonance for every emotion that we have and every worldview.
Absolutely.
So, for instance,
100% agree.
It's spoken about that there's a scale, from 0 to 1,000, and 0 at the very bottom, is the emotion shame. It actually vibrates at 10. Right, but it's the closest thing to 0. Then you have guilt, and above that, apathy, above that, grief, above that, fear, and then desire, anger, pride. And then you get to this thing called courage, which vibrates at about 200. This is where the scales start to tip, where you have more positive output of emotions versus all of these kind of corroding, lower vibrational, resonating emotions.
Would gratitude be the top?
No, actually. So enlightenment is at the very top. And what I like about this book, is this book has a really interesting perspective, even in regards to eating habits. So Jasmine Keene, the woman that really promotes vegetarianism. So I know Jasmine Keene, she used the same scale to see the calibration of where she was, to understand whether or not she was able to sustain her body, on light alone. And I remember in her book, she said something about you have to be about the vibration of 634 to be able to sustain your body on liquids alone, and to be able to sustain yourself on light energy alone. She talked about it being in the 700s, which is I'm
wondering if that's not in the 6,000s and 7,000s.
6,000 and 7,000.
Yes, because that makes sense to me, because I know that when we measure the body in angstrom units, we say 6,400 angstrom units is a healthy body, and anything above is vibrating in high health, and below that is where cancer I think is at cancer is at 4,700.
And I believe, too, that the scale or the whatever measurement unit they're using within this Power versus Force, I think it is different than what you're describing, because they're doing it from a scale, 0 to 1,000.
Okay.
So
maybe
the difference
it's a different unit. Maybe it's a different unit.
I think it is, because they're talking about the difference between contracted versus expanded energy. So expanded energy starts at about 200, which is where the emotion courage lies.
Okay, cool.
And then they speak at, joy joy vibrates and calibrates at 540 on the scale, and peace at 600. So pretty much a person has to be in a peace state to be sustaining themselves on water and liquid alone. This is what's said, right? But you're getting closer to this point of like ultimate consciousness.
Awesome. What's the name of the book again?
Yeah, so it's called Power versus Force.
Awesome. I'd love to get a copy of that. Thank you.
Yeah, The Hidden Determinant of Human Behavior, and that's by David Hawkins.
David Hawkins,
so
Power versus
It's a
Force.
really, yeah, it's just amazing. But how I feel it also plays into this whole food situation, right, is I've observed, I think that there's a reason why people are attracted to raw food, and I often see it as those people are on the path of spirituality.
Yes.
You know, there's something that's very intertwined
Yes.
with food and healing, and even just to share something, you know, with regards to mushrooms, I remember the first time I ever took magic mushrooms, you know, what came through was the mushrooms said to me, they're like, just start working with raw foods only. And mushrooms are speaking to, you know, the earth right now is really wanting us to eat more plant-based overall, and it's for our own healing, but it's also for the planet's healing.
Yes.
You know, and so it's very interesting that that's something that, to me, like magic mushrooms has a very sentient quality. You know, I don't know if you've experimented with mushrooms.
Yes. I've done that, psilocybin, right?
Microdosing or...
I've done both, and I've even done the high dosing psilocybin.
The heroic dose and
6 grams. I've done those things, you know, and I've been down to Peru, and I've drank the shamanic drink that they make in Peru there, in the jungle. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, yes, I've done that, and I've done the plants, the cactus that they have down there, and DMT, and all of those kind of spiritually opening natural plant medicines. So I've engaged in all of those, and my message that I got from ayahuasca was that I don't need to do these things any longer.
Totally. Yeah, the psychedelics. It's like there's almost a point where it's not for all the time. Those are very sacred medicines.
Right.
You're not,
yes.
You know.
They give you insight. They let you see who you truly are. Let you realize what you truly are. They give you insight into capabilities, things that you're capable of, human capacities. They open your mind up to possibilities. They expand you. They pull you. They're wonderful medicines. I think things that people should do at some point in their life to open up their minds and free their minds. But I think that the trap, that people get caught up in is that they get into a habit. Marijuana was a bad habit for me. Like I don't want to blast marijuana. It has lots of benefits through THC and herbal tinctures, and even smoking marijuana has benefits. And I don't want to label anyone as good or bad. I don't engage in those things any longer. But I did smoke marijuana for many years, 27 years, 27, 28 years, something like that, 25 years at least. I don't do it any longer. Because I think that you can get into a justification of these things, and again, you can get trapped in, it's a good feeling and it's a fun time, and you can get hooked on the good feeling and the fun time, and then you start using the plant as a crutch. And then you stop learning how to cope and manage with your day and your life and your family and your relationship and your career without the plant. And when that happens, then the plant becomes a block. So yes, good, and yes, bad. Everything in life is like that, right? There's nothing in life that's not like that. You can go too fast into raw food. You can go too fast into fasting. You can go too fast into urine therapy, distilled water treatment. and push the healing crisis upon you too fast. Anything can be too much and too little, right? So, and it's just as bad to do too much as it is to do too little. So, you know what? I have really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, Jillian. I loved it. I loved speaking with you. I hope that some of my clients and contacts will reach out to you, I hope, and engage with you. I'm grateful for our time. I feel like I could probably talk to you for another 30 minutes or an hour, except that I have to meet someone really new coming up right now. So my time is cut and I have to go. But I'm grateful for your time.
Yeah, no, this has been amazing. I loved, just sharing concepts and ideas and what's going on and the science. So this has been so enlightening for myself as well, and especially some of the units of measurement that you spoke to. I'm going to inbox you through Facebook just to get
angstrom units. Yes, I'm going to send you some stuff on that. I'd love to.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And